So our goals for today are for you to understand the components of what we say when we say farm to preschool, and how they really easily integrate with the North Carolina Foundations for Early Learning and Development, as well as with the ECERS and ITERS, which you use to get a high star rating for your center. We want to explore simple ways that you can incorporate farm to preschool into your center, into your classroom, into the food you serve, to the children you serve. And we're going to do all that by doing kind of a deep dive into our Growing Minds Farm to Preschool Toolkit, and also talk to you about some of the other ongoing sources of support that we offer at ASAP in case you need more support. So just a little more background about us. We have been working with preschool since 2007. Growing Minds is also a co-facilitator of the North Carolina Farm to Preschool Network, which is a statewide network of organizations that work across North Carolina. And if you are not a member of that already, then we would encourage you to sign up. It's really simple. You just go to our website actually, and you can sign up for the monthly newsletter there. And that's all it takes to become a member, is to receive the monthly newsletter. And we share resources, we share grant opportunities, different things like that. And you sometimes, once you get involved in this work, you might start to hear people talk about farm to ECE instead of farm to preschool. We just say farm to preschool because we think it ties in well with the broader farm to school movement. But you might also hear people refer to farm to ECE. So there are 4 core components of farm to preschool, and that is edible gardening, serving local food in the classroom or through taste tests, cooking with kids in the classroom or doing taste tests, local food that's prepared and served to children and is part of their meals or snacks, and then having farmers visit the classroom or taking children out to farms for farm field trips, like going to a pumpkin patch or going to a corn maze or going blueberry picking. So those are what we call the 4 core components of farm to preschool, kind of what everything is based around. And the reason that we emphasize local food over just like fresh produce is because local food has a really great story and connection to the community. So there's a lot more opportunity for knowing where your food comes from and for understanding food in a more holistic way, and about building those connections either through a garden at the center or through connections to local farms. So that's why we talk about local food, but when local food's not available, you can also sub regular fresh fruits and vegetables. So farm to preschool is just like a really holistic approach to doing a lot of what you're already doing. But basically, it's incorporating healthy food and community and family engagement. It's making those connections to the community. It's encouraging active play and inquiry-based education. And so it's just this nice package that gets kids connected to their food. And so that helps encourage healthy behaviors from the youngest ages. So some of the goals of Farm to Preschool are to help young kids form positive attitudes about food and eating. We know that during those first 5 years, that's when so much of the brain development is happening, and when all of the behaviors that we'll kind of take into our adult lives are being formed. So if you can form positive attitudes about eating fruits and vegetables and eating a healthy, balanced diet right from the get-go, then that's going to stick with kids throughout their life. We also think that Farm to Preschool really supports active play and hands-on experiential learning. One of my favorite things about Farm to Preschool, and especially about gardens, is that they can foster this joy and wonder and asking questions and kind of learning by doing that is different than just reading a book. It's also, we think, it's activities that are simple, especially the activities that we've included in our Farm to Preschool toolkit are really simple activities, so they can easily be integrated into what you're doing at the center to create a high quality experience for your children. And there's great opportunities to engage with families and the broader community through Farm to Preschool. So one of the best things that we can do as educators when we're talking about healthy food in particular, and also connecting with nature, is to model positive behavior. So kids are generally fairly open to trying new experiences. And it's important for adults to model the kinds of behaviors that we know are the healthy behaviors. So if you get handed a tomato and you say, ew, then kids pick up on that. So being a good model for trying new things, for when you see a worm, not saying, ew, yuck. I definitely have worked with kids where we open up a compost bin and all the adults say, ew, and the kids are just ready to dig into the worms. But, you know, if they're getting the feedback that they shouldn't be touching the worms, then that kind of cuts off their desire to explore. So modeling is a really great step in farm to preschool, just for modeling the learning process as well, being open to trying new experiences. It's very important. We can also offer healthy choices to kids and let them choose whether they want to participate or not. We're generally just creating positive food environments. So healthy, positive environments where kids feel nurtured and ready to dive in and try new things. And then we can create participation within the broader family by inviting families in and really letting their kids share what they've been doing in school. So Farm to Preschool offers a great opportunity for children to get excited about things in the classroom, whether that's growing some food in the garden or trying new fruits and vegetables, and then be able to share that with their families and maybe impact their families. We've seen through surveys that we've done that kids can actually impact their family's health by leaning into the choices, you know, by saying, oh, mom, I ate zucchini at school today and I really loved it. Can we get more zucchini? So we're going to talk about our Farm to Preschool Toolkit, which I hope you all have a copy of. But basically our toolkit is all of our Farm to Preschool resources that we've created through the years, all put into one kind of easy to use package. And so we are going to walk through that package with you so you understand how to use the toolkit. We hope that the toolkit is really simple and makes implementing farm to preschool activities really simple. And always remember that you can start small. We're not saying, you know, dive in and start doing every single thing in this toolkit. You can pick and choose what you do. And we're going to walk through all of these components now. So the core of our toolkit is our kind of year-round curriculum, and curriculum sounds like a big word, but our curriculum is pretty simple, and it includes lesson plans, but it also includes simple activities, simple recipes, things like that. And so the way that our toolkit is broken down, it's broken down into 9 produce themed sections, and those are tomatoes, cucumbers, cabbage, potatoes, apples, lettuce and greens, strawberries, summer squash, and berries. And so we have chosen this produce because it's produce that most people recognize. It's not like, you know, weird stuff like kohlrabi. It's stuff that's easily accessible in most places and generally pretty affordable. And so these are things that we think are good entry point produce items to get kids interested in trying new foods. And when we say potatoes, we include potatoes and sweet potatoes in that category. Sweet potatoes North Carolina is one of the biggest growers of sweet potatoes in the country, if not the biggest. So sweet potatoes are also a great crop to share with kids. And so the way that our kind of sections work here is that most of the sections are 4-week sections that kind of correspond with the months of the year. So in North Carolina, tomatoes are generally start coming into season in the garden or on a farm in late summer. So that is generally around August. And then everything after that will be seasonally available in kind of corresponding to the calendar year. So cucumbers are available in September, cabbage is available in October, potatoes and sweet potatoes readily available in November. So most of those are 4-week sections. When we get to apples, we have a longer section devoted to apples just because there's less seasonal locally grown produce available in the winter. So apples go through December, January, and February. Lettuce and greens go through March and April. And then strawberries correspond to May, summer squash to June, and berries to July. Now, You don't have to stick to this exactly, because most of these produce items have a seasonal availability that's a little bit longer. So tomatoes are available in August, but also in September and even sometimes in October. So if you want to shift when you're doing these sections, that's fine. Especially, you know, down east, your growing season might be a little bit different than ours up here in the mountains. But we do have a seasonal produce availability chart on page 20 of the toolkit, and that's always a good thing to refer to if you're like, oh, I want to go to the farmer's market and pick up something to do a taste test with the students, and I'm not sure what might be available. You can check out that chart for more ideas. So that is the core of how the toolkit is broken down. And then within each section, so within the tomato section, you're going to find 2 to 4 lesson plans in each unit, essentially. And all of our lesson plans are pretty straightforward and simple. They're all aligned with the North Carolina Foundations for Early Learning and Development. Because those foundations sometimes change, this is the one resource that's not actually included in the toolkit itself. This resource is available on our website. So this chart that you're looking at here, this shows in the first column, in the first column, it shows all of our lesson plans by name, and then it shows the different foundations across the top, and it shows each foundation or each standard that the lesson plan applies to. So we just want you to know that these are all aligned with what you're already, probably doing as far as lessons are concerned. And if you ever need to know what the alignment is, this chart is available on the Growing Minds website. So in most of the units, you're going to find a produce exploration lesson plan. And our exploration lesson plans are designed to be really simple and straightforward, and to just guide children and staff maybe through gaining familiarity with local produce or new produce, and to have comfort with tasting new foods. So for example, in the first unit, the tomato unit, you're going to find a tomato exploration lesson plan. And the way our lesson plans are broken down, you'll find there's objectives for the lesson. You're going to find a connection to that. You're going to find the curriculum alignment. So what standards are covered by the lesson. You're going to find a list of materials. We always recommend a book to read. So if it's like a farm to school book, if you don't have this book in your classroom or you can't check it out from the library, you can find another book to sub in to read a story to the students that connects with what the activity is going to be. And then there's going to be an activity. So in the tomato exploration lesson plan, you're going to get a pint of mixed cherry tomatoes, enough to have everyone in the center try one. And then you're going to pass out a tomato to everyone, maybe a couple tomatoes if they're different varieties. And then you're just going to start asking questions to guide exploration. So you're going to say, what color are the tomatoes? What is the tomato? What shape is the tomato? Why do you think the tomatoes come in different colors? What does the tomato smell like? You're just going to kind of do a guided exploration of the tomato. And then at the end, you're going to invite the children to taste the tomato. So really simple. This is just about getting kids excited to try new food. And you can also, if you got the tomatoes from a local farmer's market, then you can talk about the farm where they were grown or the farmer who grew them. You could talk about what a tomato plant looks like. So it really can be as simple, or you can make it as complex as you want as far as the conversation around tomatoes goes. You can ask, does anyone regularly eat tomatoes at home? What kinds of things do you make with tomatoes? And then once they've tried them, then that's it for the lesson essentially. But we also wanted to make this, because we're trying to make everything in our toolkit as easy as possible. We also have something called the CROSSWALK. And so any of our lesson plans that involve food, like tasting a food, like tasting a cherry tomato, you can check out this chart, which is on pages 17 to 19 in the toolkit. This is called the CROSSWALK, and this will show you how to take any of our lesson plans that involve tasting food and make them into a CACFP reimbursable snack. So we give suggestions for how many tomatoes you would need to offer to students, and then you could pair it with something else to make it the full snack. So for instance, in the tomato exploration lesson plan, you would serve each child half a cup of tomatoes, and then you could include either half a slice of whole grain toast or half an ounce of hummus as a meat alternative. And then it becomes a CACFP reimbursable snack. So that makes it, we don't want this to be expensive for you. So that's a great way to be able to offer an interesting lesson to the students, but also get reimbursed through CACFP.
Gwen, can I just interrupt you for just a second?
Yes.
I love the fact that this is reimbursable for CACFP, and to our sites who are currently participating in cohort 3, we also just wanted to remind you that we're offering you guys a lot of different books that you'll be able to use that go with these lessons. So if you don't have a book, if you're in cohort 1 or 2 and you don't have a book to go with a lesson that you want to offer, just let us know, because we're also starting a lending library. And so we'll be able to provide you with a book to work through each lesson with. So definitely reach out to us if you want to do one of these lessons and you need books. And cohort 3, you will be getting a lot of books in your starter kits. As well, just a lovely reminder that we're always here to support you in adjusting or claiming for CACFP. So if you ever need any assistance in coming up with recipes or ideas to make them reimbursable on top of the wonderful information that's provided in the book, to absolutely just give either Abby or I a call and we'll help you work through that process as well. But continue, Gwen, this is amazing. Thank you.
Okay, great. No, that was awesome. I'm glad to hear that you guys are starting a lending library and going to be offering some books. That's fantastic. We also have a lending library at the Growing Minds office in Asheville. And so for teachers in our area, we do the same thing. We loan out books, and when teachers want to go through a set of the lesson plans, we will loan them the books. And so I think that's a really great approach. All right. And thank you for letting me catch my breath and get a glass of water. All right, so once you have gotten through the kind of lesson plan section, and again, through each unit, you're going to find 2 to 4 lesson plans. A lot of them are those produce exploration lesson plans. So it's just kind of like a taste test, an exploratory taste test. And a lot of the other lesson plans are going to be kind of craft-based lessons. So again, they're very simple. They're very straightforward. They're also geared at getting kids excited about trying new foods. So for instance, we have a veggie crowns lesson plan where students are going to cut out pictures of different kinds of vegetables, or be given, different kinds of vegetables, and then they're going to make a crown to wear with the vegetables that they like. So really simple, really straightforward, just getting kids excited about vegetables and creating that healthy, positive food environment for them. So once you've kind of looked through the lesson plans, the next part, so when I talk about our units being 4 weeks, like the tomato unit is 4 weeks, we have something called This Week in the Garden. And that is also going to kind of correspond to the calendar year as it progresses, and to what's happening outside in nature at that time of year. So again, thinking that tomatoes, if you were going to start this unit in August or September, each section is going to have what's growing. And so that's just a really quick little blurb about what's happening outdoors that time of year. So late summer, early fall, what might be happening in the garden if you've planted a little vegetable garden at your center. Just some basic ideas about what's happening in the garden, what's happening with nature, and how you can get kids involved in that. Then there's always going to be an activity, and the activities are sometimes garden-based, and sometimes there are things that you can do inside. This one is about making seed balls. So making a seed ball is just taking a little potting soil, a little bit of clay, and then some seeds, a lot of times wildflower seeds, and creating little balls, letting them dry, and then kids can throw them out into the schoolyard or into empty lots or any place you want to see some flowers grow. So again, very straightforward, simple recipes. I mean, not recipes, activities. There's always going to be a book of the week that we recommend for that week. And so it's just going to give you a little information about the book. Again, the books are going to be seasonally appropriate. And then finally, an energizer. And the energizer is all about encouraging that active play. So it's going to be sometimes singing a song, sometimes playing a game, but just a way to get kids moving and incorporate farm to school and local produce into that activity. And then, so we're always going to share a recipe of the week. That's a seasonal recipe that's going to feature the ingredient that is in that unit. So in Tomato Week, the recipe is always going to have tomatoes. And those recipes are scaled for 20 kids. And so all of the recipes in the This Week in the Garden are scaled for 20 children. And that's usually for 20 children to have, like, you know, a little snack. So it's not going to make like a huge, crazy amount of food or anything like that. And some of those recipes are things that you might want to prepare and just serve to the children as a snack or a meal. Some of them, and it's generally indicated, some of them are a little more easy to do as like a cooking activity in the class where the students, and we'll talk more about cooking in a little bit, but just note that the recipes, this is all, again, all about introducing kids to new foods and local foods, seasonally appropriate foods, so that they get excited about eating vegetables and fruits. And so you can either serve the meals, serve the recipes, or have the kids get involved in preparing the recipes. And then, so each This Week in the Garden is paired with a Farm to School Goes Home. This is a black and white handout that you can photocopy and send home with the kids' families. So we call this kind of a backpack resource. And again, it's going to have a recipe that mimics, that is either the same or that is a slight variation on the recipe that we suggested to serve in the school that week. So again, this is going to reinforce, if the kids they tried tomatoes in school, they had the tomato bruschetta and they were really excited about eating that, then maybe they bring this recipe home and they get their family excited about making a little pizza together with some locally grown or some fresh, tasty tomatoes. And then finally, the Farm to School Goes Home handout is going to have some garden tips for families and kids. So these, again, are going to be simple gardening activities. We do not think that you need to have a huge, beautiful, crazy garden in order to do farm to school activities. A lot of times the best learning happens just like with a houseplant or a jar with some seeds that you're sprouting. So this is going to have some, again, seasonal, simple gardening activities, both indoor and outdoor activities for children to do with their families. So this is intended to make that school to home connection. And so another kind of underpinning the whole toolkit is this document called Reach for the Stars with Farm to Preschool. And so this is a really helpful chart that was created by the North Carolina Farm to Preschool Network members. And this chart is going to show you how you can align the farm to school activities with the ITERS and the ECERS so that you can achieve a high star rating for your center. So this is all about creating a high quality environment for the children that you serve. And you're probably already doing tons of that. And these simple farm to school activities can help you achieve that high star rating. And so this chart is going to show you how to do that. So for example, you'll see that in the left-hand column, we've got the ITERS for the infants and toddlers. We've got the ECERS for those slightly older children on the right-hand side. And then you're going to see the subscale, the scale, and the indicators. This just matches exactly to the ITERS and ECERS books. So I said that backwards, ITERS and ECERS, sorry. So for example, under space and furnishings, display for children, to get the indicator 5.1 is that photos are displayed on the walls. And that this one is about, so these are, I'm getting a little tongue tied, but what I want to say is that these, we've just slightly modified them in this chart. So we've taken what's already in the ITERS and ECERS, and we've just put a farm to school spin on them. So this is showing you how to meet that indicator while doing farm to school activities. And I'm going to give you an example here. So for that one that we were just looking at, the scale is the display for children of the child-related display. And so you're going to display photos on the walls about a current farm field trip or farm visit that the students participated in. And so in this instance here, a local farmer in our Asheville area visited a preschool. He's a farmer who grows microgreens, which are little tiny sprouts. He brought microgreens into the classroom. He let kids sample them. He read them a story, talked to them about what he does on his farm. And then this display was created with pictures from that event. So this meets that indicator for displaying photos about current activities happening in the center that feature the children. So again, this is just another chart that's made that we hope helps make this really fit in with what you're already doing and show you how this can like seamlessly be incorporated to help you get the high quality center that I know that you all are trying to achieve. Does anyone have any questions about any of that so far? All right, well, if you come up with any questions, just shout out. But otherwise, I think, Debbi, it's going to turn over to you now. Do you want to just tell me when to forward the slides?
Sure. But what we're going to do, as Gwen had mentioned, we had the activities, the recipes, and we had the energizers. So we're just going to do a quick little energizer. So if everybody just wants to stand up by where you're sitting, and we are going to pretend it's not a rainy day, pretend it's a beautiful, gorgeous, sunny day, and we are sunflowers, and we are going to reach up to the sun and stretch like a sunflower. So if everybody wants to just stretch up. And now everybody is going to pretend you're a bunny in your garden, and you're going to hop and grab a carrot from the ground. So you're going to hop and you're going to reach down and you're going to pull that carrot up and you're going to munch that carrot. And now you're going to pretend you're stuck and you're in the mud and you can't get out of the mud and your foot is stuck. So you're hopping and you finally get free. All right. Does everybody feel good? I only see a few people on here, so I'm looking at black screens. So I hope you got your stretch in. Those are just some fun little energizers that you can do with the kids. Obviously, that's a short little burst one so that we can watch our time with you all. But all right, so I have local foods and meals and snacks. And it looks like from our poll that you all actually had quite a bit of this already happening. And I know when we had our first training, they said that you guys incorporate your local food in your meals and snacks. And like Gwen said, it doesn't have to be something difficult or hard. You could pick like one local food for the month and just integrate it into your meals. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. That's what I was saying. So start small. Product of the month. Define what success means to you. Does that mean we're going to be doing this once a week? Does it mean we're going to be doing it once a month? So you have to decide what success means to your center and your children and your families. And then your goals will impact how you source. So depending upon how often you would like to serve these meals, is how much you will be procuring from your local farmers. Ways to connect with the farmers. A great way is your local co-op extension office. And of course, as Gwen was mentioning, farmers markets, because you can look and see what is in season on that one page. I think she said was page 20. And you could see, oh, well, tomatoes are in season. So I'm going to go to the local farmers market and pick up a bag of tomatoes and bring it for a taste test. You can forward. Oh my gosh, now I'm getting tongue tied and I just started. All right, toolkit resources for procurement. I think you guys know a little bit about the procurement for your centers. And this information just breaks it down even more so. It's on page 179 through 181. And it gives all kinds of information for procurement. And if you have specific questions for us, you can ask or email us anytime if you're going through things and you're not sure about the procurement piece of it. But options and tips for the purchasing of the local food, and also food service director and farmer conversation guide. So is anybody procuring right now locally sourced? You could just do a shout out. No? Okay. You could go to the next slide. So this is, it looks like a very crazy chart, but it really makes it a little bit more simple because you're just answering yes and no questions. And so it helps you to make those decisions that need to be met to be able to procure for your child care center. It also has a tip sheet and local food purchasing resources as well. So it's a pretty thorough information as far as procuring local foods.
And I can't remember if we mentioned this, but we'll send you a copy of this presentation at the end so that you have the links to everything we're sharing here.
Oh yes, thank you, Gwen. Local food taste tests. This is my favorite. I love doing local food taste tests. I miss it since we've done, within COVID. I was hitting a bunch of centers right before COVID hit, and the experience was just amazing. You have from, some families we would do, I think had like a health day, and they invited their parents. There were nurses there. We were doing the local taste tests. And, some kids will come up and they're not quite sure about what we were taste testing. One of our favorite things to taste test is a sweet potato. It's very inexpensive to taste test a sweet potato because you're just cutting them in teeny tiny pieces for them to taste. So really, like one potato could probably do 2 to 3 classrooms. As far as the taste test goes. But the kids would come up, we would have a mystery box where they could put their hand in and feel and try to figure out what the mystery vegetable or fruit is. And they come up with all kinds of crazy things. And then when they taste it, a lot of times they think it's a carrot, because I don't know if any of y'all have tasted a sweet potato raw, but it does. It tastes like a carrot. Some kids will come up and they don't want to taste it. And, I've had some where I say, okay, that's all right. Well, you want to hold it? Do you want to feel it? And the little boy, he was feeling it. And I said, do you want to smell it? See what maybe smells like? And so he smelt it. And I said, well, maybe you want to maybe lick it a little bit. And I got him to the lick stage. So it was a very impressive time for him because at least he touched it, he smelt it, and he licked it. He didn't want to taste it, but he was exposed to that vegetable. And the mom took it and said, well, we'll taste it in the car. I had another little girl that the family came up and the mom's like, oh, she's not going to try that. She won't like it. And the little girl, I said, do you want to try it? She, sure enough, went down, tasted it. And she was like, this is so good. She ended up coming back to our table 5 times to get another piece of the sweet potato. So the mom finally came up and she's like, I guess I'm going to have to go get a sweet potato to try this at home because I can't believe she's eating this sweet potato. I said, just make sure it's local. You could do the next slide. Oh, yeah. All right. So I talk ahead of myself. So why offer these? Obviously, this was one of the taste tests I was talking about. These kids had a great time. The families were there. We were able to give them the local food guide so that they could see what was locally grown and in season. And like Gwen had mentioned, it facilitates a change in food choices, not only for the children, but for their families. So it's a nice win-win for everyone when the kids are excited about it and they can get the parents excited about it. And it's a positive food environment. And of course, encouraging them to be willing to try more new foods at home. So like I said, it's just a wonderful experience for the families and for the children and for the teachers and the centers as well. Taste tests can happen in the classroom. You all, I think we have a slide here in a minute about COVID. So can we just skip and see if I'm right? Is there? Okay. So, or outdoors to be COVID safe. So this was one of the ones we did do in October for North Carolina Crunch. And we were at one of the WCCA sites, and obviously the kids all had their masks on. We had a book. We read about the apples. It was outdoors, as you could see. We had the 3 different types of apples for them to try. And we always say, you know, that they could put the little sticker saying that they liked it, they loved it, or they'll try it next time. And most of them all tried it, because when they start seeing their friends trying it, then they're like, oh, I want to try this. So that was a really fun activity that we were able to do during COVID outdoors. Okay. Oh, and then again, involving the families. This was very funny. This was one of our other Growing Minds coordinators. And it just kind of felt like how this is going to fall. But she had the taste test inside with the kids and had a great time. And I'm not sure what the taste test happened to be. It could have even been a blueberry. So the kids all had their taste. She had put the setup outside so that the parents would pass by it on the way going in to pick their kids up. And like nobody wanted to look at her. They're all kind of like looking the other way. And she would say, would you like to have a taste test? And they were like, oh no, I just had lunch. And we're like, it's a blueberry. So everybody would have their excuses not to stop and taste test. But the minute they went in and picked their kids up and came back out with the kids were so excited of what they had learned in the class between the book and the taste test and the experiences, that then the families had to taste test. You know, that positive modeling, like we said, is very impactful. So their kids are excited, then they give it a try, and it includes the families and involves them. We have a lot of Get Local School resources on our website that you can see, as far as bookmarks, bulletin board sets, beautiful bulletin board sets, seasonal sets, spring, summer, fall, winter. We have taste test signs. When you are procuring your local foods, we have monthly menu templates you can use. For purchase, we have recipe cards, as Gwen was mentioning about the tomatoes. For example, we have tomato salsa, fresh tomato salsa that can be sent home with the kids as well. And everybody loves a sticker. You can get them to do anything if you have a sticker for them. So we have our tried local stickers, and we also have product posters. And again, you can find all these things in your toolkit on page 178, or check it out on our website under the Get Local School Resources. And cooking in the classroom does not have to be heat. I think a lot of people feel like when we say cooking in the classroom, we're going to have to use heat, but that's not the case. Cooking in the classroom is them putting things together, especially now during COVID, when we can't have a communal pot. And we really couldn't have the communal pot before, but even now during COVID. And so it could be something as easy as we have a garden plot cracker. I don't know if y'all have seen that in our toolkit. And that's a great one. You could use the crackers, a little bit of hummus or cream cheese, and some different vegetables, and they can make a little garden plot, and then they all get to eat it. But it's all separate on individual plates so that they can put things together. This particular one was a great experience for the kids, and they were just playing. Our cohort just gave them some vegetables and some toothpicks, and they were building monsters out of them. And then all of a sudden, one of the kids said, "Can we try this?" And she's like, "Well, I guess, sure." And then they ended up just munching down all of these creations, the little radishes, cucumbers, microgreens, and just had a great time tasting what they had created. So if kids' hands are involved, they're going to be more likely to try things. And where to find local food recipes are, what I just mentioned, recipes. The garden plot cracker lesson that I just talked about is on page 164. They also have the follow home recipe to send home. And of course, it also goes along with this week in the garden. So it's nice how everything kind of ties together within this toolkit between the books and the lessons and the recipes and the activities, and just engaging the teachers, the kids, the families. It's just a very positive experience from what we have. I don't have words. I get so excited over these taste tests. And go ahead. Cooking options for ECE settings. You can demonstrate. You can make a smoothie. You can show them how you can put the whole fruit in, and that's what makes a smoothie. And then divvy it up and put it out for the children to have a taste test that way. They could taste the fruit whole, and then they could taste the smoothie, and then they could compare which they like. Do they like the whole fruit better? Do they like the smoothie? And then again, letting the children assemble things that they can eat. And as I've already said, it doesn't have to involve heat. Local food cooking demonstrations. You all can do it. We used to come in to do it. So right now during COVID, please contact us if you have any questions or want examples for how to do demonstrations in your classrooms. And we'd love to help you out with that. But I think you guys are pretty sharp crew as far as what it looks like, as far as being able to do the taste test and the local food. And also too, I know we've already talked about this, group recipes, and y'all have so many, I can't think of the word on you. Regulations. Thank you. Regulations on you to begin with. And so I know you guys know what you can and can't do. So obviously that's a no-no, especially now with COVID. Keeping it safe, again, you're all already working with your local health departments. You know what your sanitation and environmental health codes are. And obviously you got great directors. But we do have a best practice that you can take a look at on the toolkit, in the toolkit on page 195. Farmer visits and field trips. Obviously, COVID has halted that as well. But when things are back to normal, that is a wonderful thing to be able to take your kids out to actually see where the food grows and see that doesn't just appear in their refrigerator, that somebody had to plant that seed, somebody had to take care of that seed, and somebody had to help grow those fruits and vegetables. Obviously, farmers coming in, that's not happening right now either. But you can use, there's a hayride resource to help plan in a farm field trip in the future. Farmer visits to the classroom works really well when it's not COVID. But we do have alternatives for Meet Your Farmer. We have come up with Meet Your Farmer videos. And we have, I think 5, Gwen, is it 5 or 6 posted now?
Yeah, I think 5 or 6.
Yeah, everything from us talking about sweet potatoes to talking about alpacas to talking about goats. And so we have a wide range of different ones on there right now that you guys can check out on our website. And I know quite a bit of ours in the Buncombe County area, we're using it as a virtual learning tool for the children. And edible gardens are just, again, if the kids' hands are in it, they're going to want to try it. And that's also really nice to be able to do this time because they can be spread out. They don't have to be all on top of one another. So as far as COVID regulations, we're meeting that. But if they're in the soil, planting the seeds, watching them grow, they're going to want to taste it and enjoy it and share it with their families and friends. And we've had a lot of edible gardens that were also sent home during this time, and the teachers are doing the virtual with lessons as far as that goes too. So you can also send seeds home with families so that they can mimic what they're learning in the school setting. Obviously, it's a positive experience, outdoor learning. Who doesn't want to be outdoors? Well, now I know one of y'all didn't. I know one of y'all didn't. So just send your other teacher out to do the outdoor activities. And you can start the plant seeds inside and have them watch. You could put seeds in a paper towel, a damp paper towel, and then stick it into a plastic bag, zip it, tape it onto the windows, and just watch the roots come down and the shoots go up, and the kids get really excited about their plants. And then you can pot them in the classroom and send them home. But being outside and their hands-on experience, like I just said, children will eat what they grow. It's all positive experiences. There, you could do no wrong with farm to school. So basically, again, if you have your toolkits with you, you might want to take a look at page 182 and 184 to find out more ideas and tips on gardening with your young children. We have so many tips, and I think you guys and your crews already are doing a lot of these things.
I would say that just reading through these kind of tips in the toolkit, if gardening seems really daunting to you, like you kind of want to get started, maybe you'd like to plant a few things, but you're just not sure where to start, this should help give you a little bit of more information just to feel comfortable enough to get started.
Hold on one second. It looks like somebody was trying to get in. Did Abby make it back in? Does anybody know?
She hasn't yet. She had to call in because her microphone wasn't working. So if you could just
let me see. For whatever reason, it's not. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry about that. I was looking at the presentation and not the sideline. Did you have a question?
No, I did not have a question. I just wanted to be able to talk if I needed to. It was frustrating.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I hope you weren't waiting long.
It's okay. Thank you for letting me in.
You're welcome. Okay, so the pre-K plant list, again, pages 185 to 190 in the toolkit to find out ideas for plants of what to use, but also what not to use and to avoid, because there's poisonous to the children. There's countless ways to garden, as I kind of mentioned. Obviously, you have the big gardens in the planter boxes. You could just dig in the ground and plant some seeds. It doesn't have to be difficult. We don't want it to be difficult. We want these kids to get excited about it and be able to mimic it at home. So most people at home are not going to have these gorgeous planter boxes. So you don't have to make it complicated. The more simple, the better, because then more people will want to be involved with it. And like Gwen said, you don't have to have a lot of knowledge to garden. For example, when I started with ASAP a year ago, I had never gardened. I love the idea of gardening, but I had never gardened. And so it was very exciting for me with our neighbor during the COVID time to build this little garden. And I have grandsons. At that time, they were what, 4 and 6. Great time with the kids' age. And they had so much fun, and I learned so much about gardening that I had never learned before, and they loved it. They would literally crawl into the garden and just start munching away. They just start picking the things that, what is this? Is this the arugula? Yep. Is this the spicy one? Yep. And they just were in there munching it. So just have fun with the experiences.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
So I just wanted to show you the planter boxes that you will be receiving, just so you have an idea when moving forward. Our previous center, so foundations, not sure if they have them. I think you do.
We
And
do.
then,
We don't have, I'm sorry. We don't have them like what's in the picture, but we have them like the other picture separated in the ground.
Okay.
We have those.
Okay. I just show you, so the new cohorts will be getting these planters. You'll be getting 2 of them, so that you can plant stuff inside of them. And I just wanted to show you so that you had something to look at, so that you knew that this would be pertaining to you.
Yay, that's
That
exciting.
was all. Thank you.
And they're the perfect size. Gardeners, you know, so that the kids can reach into them. You don't want them very wide because then they can't reach into them. So like this is an example of one where they can just get their hands in there and they can reach everything. And again, how I already said, they need to be simple so that it's something families can replicate at home. This was a indoor garden activity. Oh, this is what I was talking about, where the kids watched the seeds sprout in a bag taped to the window, and then they were able to plant them after they sprouted. And some of them they planted in cups, some of them they went ahead and planted in the ground. I think this was also the one, where they learned that if you wait too long to transplant them at certain stages, the plants are too fragile for the kids to handle. And so some of the stems broke, but it was a great example for the students and the teachers to learn side by side. And I think that's one of the best things, is when the teachers and the kids are learning it together.
Yeah, I think this one is a great example of just like having that growth mindset. So if it doesn't work well the first time, it doesn't go exactly as planned, just knowing, okay, what did we learn from that experience? How can we take what we learned and apply it the next time that we try this? So with these plants, sometimes what happens when you start seeds inside is that they're, even if they're in a sunny window, they're not getting the brightest sunlight. And so they get really leggy, they get really long stems because they're trying to get closer to the sun. And so when they get those really long stems, that's what becomes fragile. And so probably this class would have been a little more successful if they had moved their seeds outside a little bit earlier before they got so leggy. But again, it's just a great example to use this as a teachable moment to learn from our mistakes and be able to take that information and apply it to the future.
We touched base a little bit about the resources for COVID. We also have a Growing Minds Day by Day, which is a weekly garden and food themed resource list. We do read alouds, and we did that specifically when COVID hit. We knew that there were families at home that maybe didn't have the resources, the books at home. So we made sure that we could find the books that were being read aloud on YouTube. So you'll find that all of the Growing Minds Day by Days are all read aloud on YouTube. So you could use that in your classrooms. And we have recipes that will go along with the theme. For example, we had just done, well, obviously Valentine's Day. So it was a Valentine themed about, what was the bee book, Gwen? What was it called?
Oh,
oh, is that bad? Okay, let me go. Yeah, it's a great book.
It's about bees. A love letter was the Valentine's book.
Yes, it was a Valentine's book. So we had this great resource because this was a father who was afraid of bees, but didn't want his children to be afraid of bees. So he had done this love letter to the bees. And so then the whole theme wrapped into how to write a letter. Obviously, your guys are little for writing letters, but meaning that everything is themed. So we have activities, we have crafts, we'll have lesson plans and resources for you. And again, like this is once a week. And it's been a lot of fun making these. So you guys will have to check it out on our website. And then we've already talked about Meet Your Farmer. Oh, and I did not really mention about the junior farmer. We do have some of the farmers who had older children who also got to talk about their farm. And so it was nice to see it in looking through their eyes. And so I think little ones would enjoy watching a little bit older ones talking about life on the farm. Okay, so now it's just what ideas do you have for I cannot talk. I can't say that word. Stop laughing at me. Anyway, what resources, support do you need in order to do these farm to preschool activities? Are you taking this one, Gwen?
Oh, I just think at this point we can open it up for a conversation. And if people have questions about specific things or want us to go more in depth or give them more examples of things that we've shared about today, it's kind of, the floor is open.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
I think I did have a question. I put it on the chat about do it tell us when to start to plant the seed or begin to plant the seed?
Yeah, that's a great question. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, I need to know. I mean,
yeah, so that's a great question. So you will find some information about that in the toolkit. In the This Week in the Garden activity guides, where it has the what's growing, that'll give you some information about what kinds of things to be planting at what times. Right. But there's also a great resource that I will send in the follow-up to this so that it gets to you, which was made by the North Carolina Cooperative Extension. And it's a planting guide for all of your basic vegetables. And so it's just a little chart, and it says, like, for beans, it says when to start them indoors or when to start them directly in the garden. And so a lot of that information is just something that you'll become more comfortable with over time. Okay. But that chart, I always think it's great to look at a chart. I've been gardening for years, and I still like to refer back to the chart to just have kind of that blueprint of when to start different things. But as a general rule of thumb, there are cool season vegetables and there's warm season vegetables. Right. And your cool season vegetables are going to be like your hardy greens, your collards, your kale, spinach, your lettuces, and also a lot of the root vegetables like radishes, beets, turnips, rutabagas, things like that, carrots. So those things are all generally things that you can start planting the seed a little bit earlier when the soil is still cool. And then the things that are warmer season veggies are going to be a lot of your things that make fruit. So tomatoes, melons, eggplants, peppers. Those are all things that like to have warmer temperature. And so there's also just knowing a lot of stuff it's going to be slower to grow. And so you might want to start tomato seeds in the classroom in little pots. And then once the soil warms up in about May, usually for warm season vegetables, they usually say around Mother's Day is when it's safe to plant them outdoors. And then you can just transplant the seeds that you've already started in the classroom where the temperature is more controlled out into the garden. But I will definitely send you all that chart about when to start different seeds.
Okay.